Hello, hello, we're here.
Hey.
Hi, Annie. Thank you so much for
Aaron, nice to see
you. Yeah, I'm just noticing the lovely friends that are signing in and letting us know they're here. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Tim. Hi, Irene and John. It's lovely to see you guys starting to load in, and such relief to be here in community and authenticity and sharing, and yeah, delightful. Thank you. I'm wondering if you can hear me, Annie, because when I look at your screen, it looks frozen again.
Frozen again. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. I can hear you, and now I can see you. That's
Oh, good.
Delightful. So I was just going to do a very quick check-in and just encourage everyone, if you would enjoy to just take a minute or two just to land in your chair and in your surroundings where you are, and I'm going to put my feet on the floor properly and just big breath and just land here. Noticing the sort of sense of the room around me and my feet on the floor and just what's bubbling in my body, and sort of acknowledging myself for the big day I've had. I'm calling it a big day. There were a number of projects that I worked on today that are all meaningful for me, and yeah, just acknowledging what I've worked on today, and that I'm really grateful to have a space where I can meet with my friends at the end of the day, just to be in this place of acknowledgement. So thank you for joining. And if you happen to have a similar challenge with the technology, that your screens are freezing, it can be something to do with the internet speed where you are that can have an impact. And what we've found to do is to simply reload, to jump out of the webinar and come back in on the link, and that unfreezes things for us when we have it happen. So this is class 1 of the self-care or compassionate self-care program, and it's such a thrill. This is a big, it's always such an enjoyable and momentous occasion for me to start a new program. This will be the 3rd run through of the compassionate self-care, although it was called the 5 Core Needs course in its previous incarnation. And something magical, wonderful is happening each time I commit to myself to run the course. More wonderful comes. And speaking of, I really want to acknowledge Annie Holcomb for being here from Grace Revolution, and for her support and encouragement and play. We've had some lovely play today. We recorded our class notes for everyone tonight, and so we're looking forward to sharing that. But Annie, I just want to invite you to check in and see what's alive for you. What would you like to share?
It's nice to be here. Yeah. A sense of completion, even though we're just beginning, a sense that it took so much to get to this point, and just acknowledging that, all that energy and effort, and, you know, keeping the dream alive and allowing things to be not right or how we would have liked them to be. And I think we've done really good empathy work with each other, overcoming some of our personal hurdles to get this far. And I've really appreciated that. And I find it's for me to have someone I can share from the heart with, and other people joining us who are also familiar or want to be familiar with that space in themselves. And yeah, isn't that wonderful for us all? Yeah.
Thank you. I have a real joy of the authenticity and connection, and how having authentic and empathic friends to support us on this journey, how central that has been for me and continues to be in allowing myself to continue to learn, to not get caught up in the self beat up that happens, and to embrace the imperfection or the notions that there is some perfect, and to just be willing to lean into the discomfort that it is to be human, and have a sharing of that and some play about that, and to perhaps the encouragement is to hold ourselves as really precious but not seriously, if that makes sense. So yes, this is a wonderful journey to be on, and I'm so grateful to have all of you here to play with us. So, and I'm curious if you would enjoy to introduce any of the content that you've experienced today, whether that be in the video or any sort of practice of self-care that you've enjoyed today, or if not, we might leap straight into the video, depending on how it is for you.
I think the one thing that really stayed with me after our video making this afternoon was the idea of self-warmth and how important it is, and that we have every opportunity at any minute to sit with ourselves and be warm with ourselves. And why not? Is there a better way to be than friendly with ourselves, you know? And that's just a lovely thing to do, and it's really integral to this whole process. I think it all can get really heady if you're not in your body and just starting to bring that warmth in, because yeah, all this work is asking us to be with ourselves in all our different manifestations, all our different conditionings and stuff that's going to come up, and that won't be comfortable. And the only way to be there is to have this warmth for ourselves, you know, and it is there. It's sitting right here for us all. So it's not something we have to learn. I think it's just an allowing, pulling back and going, oh yes, I remember. Yeah, I remember looking at those puppy videos I remember how it feels when I see children playing. I remember, you know, you can find that warmth. It's sitting there. So that was my
Yeah, I'm reminded that nothing is really new. It's this sense that we're removing the layers of conditioning and sort of illusion to just remember and rest back into what's true for us. It gives me such a sigh of relief. I'm also remembering in our recording from today that we had a false start. I'm going to call it a false start. When we started recording, and then there was calamity and things fell out of the freezer, that my son Jet was in the kitchen, and there was all sorts of puppy noises. And it was just one of those experiences worth having a good giggle about. So we restarted the video, and so you'll notice as I hit play on the video for the notes for tonight's class, there's a little bit of frivolity and laughter as we restart again after having given it a great shot to try and get through all of the kerfuffle and the noise. So with great love and real appreciation, I'm going to hit play on the video for tonight's lesson, and then we'll have some conversation and hear your questions. And please feel free to chat as the video is running, and we'll be on the chat, so we can chat along with you, and we'll see you on the other side of the video. See you then. Yeah, I'm recording. Let's do that. Let's do the theme of compassionate self-care for tonight. I'm recording. Let's do that. Yeah. Let's do the theme of compassionate self-care for tonight.
Far more juicy to chat about.
So I want to let everybody in that I just started recording with Annie a couple of minutes ago, and had all sorts of calamity happen in the background. And so part of me was like, will I do a demo of self-care? Will I do? And it's just, I'm willing to start again and give myself empathy and start again. So hi Annie, and welcome again. This is
hi Karen, this is great. We're still here, we're being here, and we're learning a lot as we go, and it's lovely to be able to do it with someone else, you know. It's just so interesting how we can offer each other empathy as we go. When
such a learning process. Yes.
And then we're so used to racing through things and getting it right, and that's the biggest thing, is being perfect and getting it right to the people that are watching, when we may be in all sorts of inner turmoil to get it there. And the whole thing about compassionate self-care and where we're going is to be true to ourselves and how we're feeling, isn't it? And yeah, so always learning. And you've got some lovely quotes about Marshall and his ways of learning, haven't you? So.
I do, yes. And I'm taking some beautiful resting breaths as I hear you share, and just connecting to the intention that I hold it as precious, that everybody else have this sense of beautiful warmth and softness and care for themselves, and that it's actually, I'm teaching what I most need to learn, is to remember that here first, and actually share it here first as well. So yes, it's a beautiful thing. So yes, I have some slides. Let's play with the slides. And is that full screen for you? Can you see those okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, last week we did this self-care matrix webinar, and for those who haven't seen it or would like to see it, it's there on YouTube. And it was really fun, actually. We played through these ideas of rebel and martyr, and what it is to be a friend to ourselves, and less in rebellion of our own self-care. It was really interesting. So I'll just leave that for those who may enjoy to go back and check it out. Or yeah, I enjoyed the sense of community of the people that were there too last week. So thank you to those guys. And I also would really love to just step through the principles tonight and make it really, so get some extra clarity about why this work is really calling and is precious to me, and to look at the pathway that we've been working with to support that consciousness. So yeah, one of my beautiful mentors, Marshall Rosenberg, and his love of learning that serves life. So yeah, really appreciative of that. And it's given me the same perspective of looking after myself as I learn, being empathy central with myself when I'm learning, because actually a lot of the ways I learned when I was a kid was really punishing. It was, you know, right, wrong, good, bad. And so that same language and way of being in relationship has really impacted so much of my life. And yeah, I feel really grateful to be on a learning path that actually supports me to be empathic as I go, and really allows me to be in my willingness. This breath, this joy of being in our willingness. Yeah, so here we are back at the slide of, you know, there's actions and then there's consciousness, and just getting clear that there's all these lovely actions you can do for self-care, but if it's coming from a place where there's actually self-denial and self-repression and self-annoyance, then they're only very temporary. They're like putting on a band-aid. They're not actually healing the wounds. So being able to look at the consciousness and how we're talking to ourselves, and how we can shift to much more warmth in our consciousness with this inner relationship, and just accepting we've come from cultures and been saturated in this right, wrong, good, bad, punishment type paradigm. And of course we're going to be doing self-criticism or trying to correct ourselves and be right and good. And, it makes sense, of course, that we're looking towards this greater sense of self-care and friendship and realizing, there's a bit of a journey here. There's a bit of a journey here, and just being patient with ourselves as we look at that. Okay, so this is, a little bit more of a dig in to what that looks like when we're talking to ourselves in ways that are a bit less friendly. And usually there's this intention, we're going to correct ourselves and make sure that, we're doing it right and being good. And telling ourselves, can't have that and we must do that, and, being a bit of a bully. Like, I actually would call it bullying as I review some of these ways I've treated myself in the past. It's like, it still happens, but there's much more consciousness. Like, I've just told myself I can't, and I just want to check, is that true?
It's interesting when you come to the energy around one of them. So when I should do yoga, and just feel, what does it feel like when you say I should do yoga? Usually feels really repressive, and that you're not doing it right, that if you're a good person you would have done it by now, and that, all these things, rather than, I could do yoga today if I felt like it. Do I feel like it? And asking, yourself, inviting yourself to a mat somewhere to have, it's like we're so used to pushing. So used to it. It's coming from not just ourselves, but from externally too. It's in the collective consciousness. Yeah, scared of being a failure, scared of being imperfect and get it right before you show anyone. And, I just see so many people struggle with meditation, sitting there just really in turmoil with inner thoughts because they should be meditating. And they're not a good meditator, which is really saddens me, because it's all about connecting with ourselves and being present. And, we lose those beautiful, warm parts, don't we, when we start the shoulds.
Should ourselves into action, and it's really, it's actually, getting there is actually what it's all, like that I was saying about, it's actually the process and not the outcome. Like really enjoying the journey of getting to the mat, not hating ourselves all the way to the mat and then having, such a sense of
ourselves and doing something we don't like there that actually hurts our body or makes us feel worse. And
so my joy is actually looking towards how do we address this programming? How do we start to bring back our ownership of our choice and have a sense of more purposeful caring for ourselves? And I really see this actually come out in checking our intentions. Like, it really comes out when we check our intentions. Is there empathy here, or is there no choice? Is there willingness, or is there willpower being asserted? And where are my beliefs at? Am I telling myself I deserve this beautiful love and care, or do I have this sort of underneath story that says I really don't deserve to be looking after myself or taking time out today to do meditation or rest in the sunshine because, I wouldn't be being right and good to do that when I've got a business to run or I've got other things to do.
Lazy, you might have Any self-care is lazy. I had that one.
Yeah, it's really noticing all those labels and noticing all the ways we undermine ourselves before we've even started. It's like we've name-called and shamed ourselves into inaction before we've even, let ourselves out the back door for the sunshine, And I sort of been thinking about this. It's just like, what is just a simple way to check in with myself? Where am I? Am I in self-care? Am I doing the programming? And this distinction between am I rationalizing or am I empathizing? Am I in willpower or am I in willingness? And am I trying to manage all what I see as stress and overwhelm? Or am I befriending and having a sense of openness, open body, softness in being with change as it happens, or being with circumstance, or being with things as I have feelings arising, giving me information? Can I be with that rather than hold that, put that a cap on that, like act with the mask, act with the control to try and, and it's really moving for me to talk about it, because it's actually how I've lived most of my life, and just being able to get this sort of distinction to help pull me out of, I'm in managing overwhelm and stress and self-denial here. I need a rope. What can I hold on to? And it's just these simple anchors of, am I trying to control this, or am I willing to empathize with this? How am I here? Come back to my body. Yeah. And it is about trusting this learning. I recognize my own journey with it as like, I didn't really grok, feelings and needs and have a real sense of what I was feeling and what I was needing. I didn't really have a sense that I could hear all of myself talk. I just knew that I felt like crap, and I just wasn't willing to go to do anything about it either. So there was I don't know how to do this in the beginning. And, I just want to name it as a bit of a journey, so that there is a literacy that comes with practicing and sort of soaking in the, willingness. I see what I did there, and often it's in retrospect. We see ourselves after the fact, having gone through something that was really not life-serving for us. It's like, because each of those aha moments is an opportunity for the growing of our understanding of it. And then getting to be able to apply it. So I'll leap into these principles, because this is the juicy stuff, really. This is, continuing this idea of how do we acknowledge the obstacles to really having these warm, beautiful, loving, nourishing relationships with ourselves. How do we acknowledge it, and then how do we work to deepen the sense of self-connection and choice that we have to live our lives to the fullest? So this unconscious storytelling is really what we were, talking about before. Is like, have I just told myself I'm not worth it? And just,
it's not your fault. If you are telling yourself that you're not, it's not your fault. You will be, because we all were. It's the conditioning.
Yeah. It's definitely, definitely. It was all my fault, for sure.
Yeah. Why aren't I telling myself the good story? Why am I,
Yeah, it's like that double beat up. In NVC, we used to call it being the NVC police. Like, as soon as you learn that you should, or that the best way is actually to be doing self-care, then you're immediately your own worst enemy, because you're actually assessing everything you're doing as, that's not self-care, and that's, and this sort of recognizing the stories we're telling ourselves that get in the way of us really discovering these core beliefs and lifting them out of us. It's no longer true that I'm not worthy of my own care. But, I can really understand, because I have very comfortable habits of my own that aren't very life-serving. And I am still holding myself with care as I transit from the comfortable nature of habits that have helped me cope in the past, have helped to be, that were the best strategies I could do at the time. And they are comfy. And of course, it makes it a little bit challenging to move into something that's a little new and outside that comfort. So, recognizing the value of having support as we do this, and being able to empathically reach out, have other people around us too that can be empathy friends as we as we shift out of our comfort habits of not living as we would most enjoy to.
Yeah. Because we can have empathy friends, and then we'll have like the sincere sympathy friends. You know, the ones that like, oh yeah, no, you can't stop drinking milk. I can't either. And we'll all just stay like we are because it's really too hard, isn't it? I would really love to give up cigarettes, and we'll all just have sympathy of how we can't. Yeah.
Yes. And these external forces are really, you know, we want to belong. So, of course, these external motivations like, oh, well, I'll stay one of the group. I'll just participate with everybody because actually it's so much easier. It's comfortable. And I want to be with my friends. I don't want to cause a ruckus. I'm going to, you know, I'll stay comfortable and I'll be good for them so it's easy for everybody else around me. And actually not getting connected to that's really not meeting my needs. It's not my authenticity anymore. It was, but I need to be able to express and hold myself with care as I learn to express more and more of my authenticity and really anchor myself here with what needs are really mattering to me. And this really builds trust. I mean, it's a massive trust journey. Self-care is like befriending someone. Well, for me, it was befriending someone who was my enemy, really. I was a frenemy to myself because I was 1 minute I was being reasonably accepting of myself, and the next minute I'd be a tyrant, like really military aggression on myself. And so I didn't really trust that I had this worthiness of my own self-care and really could trust that I was really keen to look after myself, because this sort of flipping that would happen, and it really develops trust as I lean into holding that care for myself, holding that willingness, really starts to ameliorate those pains of the past where the trust hasn't been there, and the loneliness too. I wrote Minister for Loneliness to remind me of the position that's actually held in the UK government. There's a Minister for Loneliness because it's been proven to be like the #1 social community condition that's actually causing the most ill health. And it's just, you know, it's everywhere. And it's this, actually, I'm not good enough to be with other people, and I'm so intolerant of myself that I'll criticize myself if I'm out and being real and authentic and connecting with other people, I'm just going to beat myself up, so I'm going to stay home and avoid it. Social anxiety, I think that's the rise of social media has really, been at the same time as the loneliness has been increasing. So it's really a fascinating social time we live in. And, it's a big part of the reason I do this work, because I don't want to be back where I was when I was socially isolated and alone in all of my, self-talk prison. And I really, it's a big part of why I took the financial gates off the course as well, because I would really love for this consciousness to be available for people to know that it's okay, that they're not by themselves, attempting to overcome these challenges of the self-talk. It's not life-serving for them. So
it's interesting when you can open, and if you tell me you're a little bit of self-talk, I can go, and you can do the same to me, and it's like, but it's very hard to break that with yourself, or if you're laying in bed just all in your own head about it, there's no reprieve or someone to go, of course you're saying that. It's been said for generations, it's not your fault. Of course you are. What else would you be saying? You're so conditioned in that way. So, yeah, we need each other in this work.
Yeah, I flipped just past the 5 core needs. We can talk some more about them next week, because it's in this hero's journey that I'm imagining we're taking as we embark on this program for the next 8 weeks. We'll look at each of the 5 core needs over week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm happy to skip past it for now, but it's really juicy. It's really, how do I look after these core needs of mine that the child psychologists have all said that if we get these core needs met in our childhood, we are so much more willing and able to self-care. So I'm really looking forward to delving in over the next few weeks. So really, this is the heart of it. This is the process that I'm keen to introduce and have shared and elaborated on, or, you know, I want people to feel free to create their own versions of this, because this is just how it's working for me at the moment. It's an evolving discipline, science, I don't know. It's my creative process. So I mentioned it already a little bit last week, and if people would like, I can send out a copy of this self-care pathway as a PDF, but there's this, pop it in the chat if you'd like that. But there's this sort of, I put this dotted line through the middle, and I just want to explain that first. It's really what I've recognized in doing the work is that I have like defense parts of me that get triggered and then fly into action. These defending parts of my personality or my ego that actually they need some care first before I can let myself in to do self-care work. So I have this sense of like meeting the part of me that's protecting me, like the shell or the mask or meeting the stories level. And so the dotted line is like, I want to meet the stories first and self-care for the part of me that's been so scared before that it's come up with a strategy called, I know how to be right now, I'm going to do this and do this strategy. And it needs care first to soften the body out of the panic that can happen, or the stress or the overwhelm or the tension in the body, just to soften that and then be able to do the deeper inner work. So this sort of 2 parts, 2 steps, I just wanted to sort of start to speak to that, because I noticed that when we did this course last time, we were calling it like our mean taskmaster part, like the taskmaster part that's going, you can't do that, you should be doing that, you should be doing it over there, you know, you can't be doing that, you don't matter, like that, like meeting that part, the rationalizer. Yeah, so I actually broke it down into these 2 parts because I think it's easier to remember as well. So there's honesty, warmth, and empathy in the first part. And really this honesty piece is key. And, you know, Marshall would say it was the difference between evaluating ourselves and observing. And I'm saying, yes, it is. But it's about observing what's really true, as opposed to what we're telling ourselves. Like, it's all right, I'm not phased about it, is the logical response at the I'm okay level. But actually, if I'm honest, it's less okay. And I actually can, what am I really saying? I'm really saying it's not okay. I don't feel okay. And I'm really needing some, you know, I've really got some feelings here, some upset feelings. And so digging in a little, like, what's really happening here? What is the honesty of how you're feeling? And bringing warmth to it, like really bringing a tone of gentleness and kindness. Like if it was an elderly grandma coming up and going, what's the matter, darling? Like, how come? What's happening? Well, no wonder you're feeling like that. Of course you would be, given everything. Oh, you know, just warming up my tone. Sometimes I notice that if I just warm up my tone, it's enough for my whole body to just, oh, right. And I've become sort of tuned into those words, oh, of course, and no wonder. Those 2 really, I've started saying of course and no wonder a lot. And sort of like when I was learning MVC, I'd be saying, would you be willing? It was like, would you be willing? Would you be willing? And I love these sort of key phrases because they really help. They really help anchor. So it's like, oh, no wonder. And just noticing the warmth arrive. And then empathy. And empathy in this model is relating to the nonviolent communication model, which is really focusing on feelings and needs. And so this first part of the empathy process is really to guess into that part that was acting all scared and up in the mask and defending. And were you feeling scared or a bit worried? Using your warm voice, were you feeling a bit scared or worried? So naming the feelings and the needs. So were you feeling a bit scared and worried because you'd really like to feel safe or some support right now? And just having the sense of, oh, another layer of relief for my body. It's like there's warmth here and there's willingness to guess at my feelings. Wow. And there's sort of like, and this is a process to learn, of course, but this just bringing warmth and honesty can just unburden us from the way we've been treating ourselves. And, you know, naturally, there's actually a sadness that can come up when we realize we've been mistreating or being unkind in how we've been bossing ourselves around. So we can actually touch that place of mourning as we warm up to ourselves, as we bring the gentleness. And, you know, oh, I actually do feel sad, or I actually do feel a bit worried, and mourn that those feelings are there because there really was some pain experienced. But this mourning process is such a powerful part of the process because it actually lets the mourning, the sadness move in the body. Instead of I'm going to protect myself from feeling any sadness and I'm going to operate from up here in my head. When I warm and soften, actually, I'm going to open the gate and the sadness is going to come. But it's not as scary because we can bring love and hold ourselves as we just acknowledge there's been sadness here and let it move through us. And in that process, really appreciate our beautiful humanity. You know, of course I would feel sad or hurt if that happened because I really value kindness, or I really value respect and care and honesty. And if they weren't present, well, of course I would feel sad. And I really appreciate that I was impacted because that's my humanity. It's trying to express itself. And I'm so grateful to have this ability to acknowledge my feelings and my needs. And this last step of just allowing ourselves to really then connect into big sigh. This is more of this sense of me being my full self, my sort of honesty and kindness and the warmth and just how I open to myself. And am I really willing to honor all that love and peace and beauty I'm longing to create? Really seeing ourselves for those and checking in about what would I really be willing, what would I really enjoy to do next about my truth. I feel quite enlivened going through the steps and sharing them. They so have made a difference to me. So how is it for you hearing them through?
It's interesting because I'm almost nearly want to put the W in after every step, because I'm even thinking it's difficult to be honest with yourself, to even start to be honest if there's no self-warmth. And we know that from the heart actually releases oxytocin, you know, and all those the sense that we have to do everything can disappear with that warmth, that we are connected and there can be a deconditioning happen, that we don't have to do it all, that, you know, that we are part of this process, but we're not on our own having to will our way through it. That warmth piece for me is integral. Yeah.
There's a beauty in the warmth that I am experiencing now that I didn't recognize so much in the early days of my NVC practice, that I was so intent in my head of getting the process right and following the steps. And so really the intention was missing of warmth. And yet it's so deeply inherent in the process of self-connection, or even connection with another, being successful. You know, there's this part of us that just opens and softens and is willing to communicate when there's warmth.
Yeah, and if we're stressed and all those other hormones are running around, we can't be warm. All our blood's out in the limbs, that there's no way we can find that warmth for ourselves because we're too busy out. Yeah.
So that's it. I've whipped through the slides in a reasonably brief way. I really care about us having time to check in with people and hear questions. And so this recording part, I might finish us here, if that works okay for you. And we'll just go back and check in with people and see how this material's landed, see if there's any questions. So thank you, Annie. See you on the other side.
Thanks, Karen. See
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Tim. Here I am sharing with you heartfelt appreciation and holding care for how it is for Annie, because her screen froze, and so she's reloading now. But I was curious. I would really love to hear any feedback. What stood out for you? Was there any material in the classroom presentation that spoke to you, that you found interesting, or that you would like to comment on? It would really support me now to have a sense of, how's that landed? I would have loved to have a sense of connection with that with you. And here comes Annie back again. So that's wonderful. Hello, back again. I'm sitting with
going back to that link to get back.
Yes, I'm sitting with the relationship I have with technology right now, and having a smile on my face with how sometimes it's a relationship that supports me and other times less so. And being willing to practice, actually. I can remember a story. I was in an internet conference with some friends a couple of years ago for NVC community internationally, and I was one of the organisers, and I couldn't get in to one of the rooms with the guests that I was hosting for the session. And so they're all chatting amongst themselves live on this presentation, and I was in an absolute state, not being able to figure out the technology to get myself in the room. And I couldn't understand why the challenge had really, happened, how could I fix it? And I was so stressed in my head about how to fix it. I actually was moved to tears, and it was in the sort of emotion of, oh yeah, I really care about belonging, and I really want to be included, and I really hold care for these people that I've invited into this. And it was just like, and as I relaxed and sort of got more connected, whatever I was doing, it supported me to get a clearer mind to work with the technology, and I was able to join the session and get into the group. So it's, I really notice actually how much our self-connection influences all the relationships we're having with our finances, with our, the way we're dealing with technology, and our physical health, and all the ways we're showing up with other people. If we're here with ourselves and we've got kindness, there's this real willingness then to engage with what's happening for me, but with more clarity of mind too, because there's care and there's calm, there's more presence. So yeah, I'm really remembering that as one of my standout technology relationship experiences. It was a big doozy of a lesson, that one. It was really. So it's interesting. Oh yeah, Lynn, I love that. That's actually rather symbolic that when I reconnect, I can hear. Yes. Yeah, and I'm getting, before John says, engaging the ego and the taskmaster before the real work can be done. It's empathy and space to really hear what's going on. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and I think possibly that it's that exactly that was the impetus for me to do this next level of evolving the NVC practice that I had, because the sense was some of the ways NVC was operating was still operating at the language level, but with the ego parts. So there was NVC language happening at the ego level, but there wasn't warmth and self-connection here. So I was telling myself, oh yeah, I need support, so I'm going to run through the model, feeling annoyed, needing support, would you be willing? And communicating it, but still not really getting in the body with the care and the warmth and the sort of real body connection to the feelings and needs, and that I was limiting my own access to that information. So I was actually locking myself out of my own resources. There's my puppies. Locking myself out of my own resourcefulness, because in the previous ways that I'd been scared and decided I wasn't going to access my resources, because that was where I was tender and where my true creativity and my true possibility was available to me, that it was a bit too risky. And so only my ego was getting to play out in certain circumstances, and it wasn't getting me the results that I was really wanting, that I was really longing for. It was the authenticity and the deeper sense of self-expression and truth that was really calling me into, I want more than just the process. I want really to get connected to, how it is for me, not just intellectually, but how is it really for me? And that I needed to get beyond the storytelling. And I remember there was in another webinar some time ago. It was around the time of Marshall Rosenberg's passing, actually, and there was a morning circle for the MVC community happening, and someone was sharing a story about Marshall, and that he had been with one of his mentors in the community, and they were grieving, having a sense of mourning and loss about this. How do we support people to use the process in this? Where's the honesty? How do we get them into this level of self-honesty that that we imagine would really support people. And that stuck with me because I was struggling with it myself. And so some of the processes have actually been born out of that inquiry. How do I support myself to get really connected, more connected? I don't think I crossed that bridge of it's really about whether I can find enough self-love, self-care. It's really about whether or not I'm willing to be that valuable to myself so that my feelings and needs actually matter to me, so that they'll rise so I can hear them. Yeah, there's some real meaning in being able to share that. Annie, I see your screen is frozen again, but are you still with me?
Is it? Can you hear me? I'm still with you. I'll just reconnect so you can see me again. Hang on.
Okay. So yes, thank you for the comments that you're sharing. I'm just going to have another quick look here and see. Yeah. Yeah, that's another great point, is this idea that we're affirming ourselves, and that can feel new. We're affirming that we really matter by doing this work. And I know on my own journey with mattering, there was a long history for me of believing this idea that I didn't matter. And it was a deeper core wound of, well, my family were making choices to be in the Air Force, and so we were moving, and that choice was out of my hands. So even though I had friends and I'd developed my school connections and, life was pretty good, Dad had come home and let the family know, oh, we've been posted to Malaysia, or we've been posted here or there. And this sense of, I really don't have a belief around mattering, and I can see where it's come from. So in doing this self-inquiry work, it's actually getting connected to, I matter. I matter. And then the willingness to do the self-care, because it's serving this process or this journey of like, I need to do the work to show myself that I actually matter. It's one thing to say, I've discovered I have a core story around I don't matter. It's another thing to go, okay, so what can I do to restore with myself? Because I chose that belief. I may have had circumstances in my young life where that belief is completely understandable, that of course I made that decision that I didn't matter back then based on my circumstances. Of course I would. I was only a little girl and I wanted to be able to stay with my friends and not have to move. But to get to a place of like, I recognize I told myself that I didn't matter. So I need to make restoration with myself. Actually, I do matter. And I feel sadness that I made that decision, that I didn't matter back then, but I didn't know. That was the best thing I could do at the time. And so mourning these core beliefs when we discover them, of course it's sad to understand that we made these choices about who we thought we were, or that we weren't enough, and to actually see them as they come up each time with the same kindness, not to get impatient with them. So the same need to matter might come up over and over again. And that it's actually the kindness, that we're warmth of, hello, that's that need to matter again. I see. I care about you. Of course, there it is. It's okay. It's to not frighten yourself away with, oh my God, you're thinking that again, you're doing that again, and back into the programming, to punish ourselves when we aren't in alignment with our self-care intentions. So just another feedback that I enjoy spending a bit more time on. And Annie, anything for you that came up in the rewatching of our recording today?
Oh, just how cute we are and what a good shot we gave it. And
Yeah.
Yep. That good on celebrating the whole thing, really. And it's quite a test for self-judgment to sit and watch yourself be replayed and listen to your voice and let go of the many judgments that may arise, and be kind about how you appear and how you sound and how you could have done it. And so that was quite lovely, actually. I enjoyed watching us. And I was just, as I was listening to you then, there is that self-judgment. Then that other paradigm for me is that healer bit. Oh, I still don't love myself enough. Well, I'll have to fix that. Yeah. So, you know, not being so judgy and hateful about it, but still that it's the fault that needs to be fixed. That I'll have to go on a quest of healing, mend it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, colleague in the NVC journey shared with me today on Messenger that
I
oh my goodness.
Are you back? I can hear you.
But I had forgotten. I turned off my microphone when our screens dropped out, and I've been enjoying my company here. Wishing that I had double checked, and that'll happen. Yes, it's time. It feels complete for me, was what I was saying. It feels complete that we have ticked the boxes and covered the material, and I would certainly love to hear any feedback as we check out here. And also during the week, if it occurs to you, I would enjoy to hear your feedback by email or reach out. So, yeah, and thank you to everyone. And I had offered Annie if there was anything alive for you before we say goodnight.
No, I'm complete. Love to all those lovely names I can see. I can't see the faces, but I can see Lynn's there and Tim and yeah. Very nice.
Thank you. Lovely to see you there, John and Leonie and Irene. And yeah, thank you. Thank you guys. It's really wonderful support. And sense of community in sharing more about this work, and let's just see if it evolves, in if it's serving and people are enjoying it, then happy to keep doing it. So at this stage I plan to be here next week, and I'm enjoying the thought of having your company again, Annie, and I will sign off for now and wish you all a really lovely evening.
Bye, everyone.
Night. Bye for now.